Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Meta Cafe for your daily dose of astrology, human design, and gene keys. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea and join me in relaxing through what should be some really interesting information that we have for you today. I have to make sure I am succinct today in getting through this material for you because I have to leave in order to get to town and have an eye exam, my just about least favorite thing to do in the world. Blue eyes, totally sensitive to everything that they want to do to you in the eye doctor's office, the drops, the holding your eye open for light, all of that. Not so much fun for me. So I have to head out early and do that today. So if I do not get right away onto Facebook and answer your messages to me, don't panic. I just have to leave early, and I'll do that when I return. So good morning to Kristen. I see you out there. And today we're going to be picking up where we left off yesterday in talking about the gene key 48 or the gate 48, which is where Venus is sitting at the moment. And it is the gate where in the shadow we express inadequacy, in the gift it is resourcefulness, and in the highest expression it is wisdom. Good morning, Mimi. And it's good to see you this morning. So we have a lot to get to. Yesterday we worked through inadequacy. Today we're going to work through resourcefulness. And there's a lot there to that as well. And it means that chances are likely that we will deal with wisdom at another day. Tomorrow, just an FYI, tomorrow my grandson is having surgery very early in the morning, so I will not be on air tomorrow morning. I will be at the hospital with his mom and him being of support to his surgery. And that means I will see you on Thursday morning, not tomorrow, although I may check in, and let everybody know what's going on and how I'm doing and how David is doing. So good morning, Tina. It's good to see you out there. So let's start off with the astrology for the day. We have the moon firmly in the sign of Capricorn now. And, what did she say, Tina? Inadequacy, one of my self-limiting beliefs. Yes, indeed. And today we're going to talk about resourcefulness and how you can use that as a way to heal through that shadow of inadequacy. I'm sure everybody will be happy to hear that you are not doomed to experience that. Good morning, Asa. Nice to see you this morning. And Mimi says, may all go with ease and grace for you and your grandson. Thank you very much. I think I may have told you guys that back in May, just before school was out, he got hit by a school bus. And the result was that, at the doctor, they did a body scan and they discovered that at the top of the femur bone, close to where it connects to the hip, he had a bone cyst. So one of the graces that comes from the accident is this knowledge now that there's this weakness in this bone, and they can go in and they can drain that cyst and they can graft some bone in there so that it will grow and continue to harden up over the next couple of months into, solid bone, so that he doesn't end up possibly breaking his hip or breaking the head of the femur by, being active in sports or anything like that. So it's kind of interesting how the universe works sometimes, right? Because there's no reason on earth they would have even noticed that particular cyst had he not been hit by the bus and needed to go to the doctor and have that x-ray done. So, or I guess it was an MRI or a CT scan done. So a total grace and a total wonderful find, if you will. Not so wonderful to have to go through the surgery, but luckily there is a way to fix it. He's young, and this will return that bone to some kind of structure that is sustainable. So that's a good thing. So today we have the moon in Capricorn, which reminds me too that during his surgery tomorrow, the moon is also in Capricorn, which would be really good in terms of establishing structure and strength and a coherence in the bone and the healing of that bone. So tell my daughter this, because it'll be really good for her to know this going into tomorrow. So today the moon in Capricorn, solid, practical, goal-oriented, resourceful Capricorn, right? The moon is trining Uranus and Taurus from its position in Capricorn and also conjuncting Saturn in Capricorn. So it has an interesting energy for the day. All right, everybody, I want you to say happy birthday to Michelle Gay. I waited for you yesterday, Michelle, to come on live so that I could tell everybody it was your birthday. And I never saw you in there. I know you had a busy day yesterday. So everybody wish Michelle a happy belated birthday. Her birthday was yesterday. And welcome this morning, Michelle. It's good to see you. And I hope you had a wonderful day yesterday. And today, with you in mind, I have some really great information. And anyway, so interesting today that the moon in Capricorn brings us to this word resourceful, resourceful. And I'm going to give you I'm going to write this for you, resourcefulness, because this is how I want us to begin thinking of the word resourceful. Good morning, Debbie Tibbetts. Good morning, Gail. Good morning, Suzanne. Good morning, Asa. Oh, I already said good morning to you, Asa. Sorry, I did see you out there. So moon in Capricorn, then this is a day where we are able to take on the practical, organized energy of Capricorn, where we can connect with the steps that we need to take in order to get where we want to go. And there is some other things, there are practical action steps perhaps that we can take today that feel really good to us, as opposed to other days where maybe we're a little bit scattered, but today has a more focus to it. And out of this moon conjunct Saturn often comes some of these lower feelings of lethargy or melancholy. Some people think it's depression or a sort of vague sense of not feeling right, or that things aren't, that there's something unseen even that can just not feel right. We feel out of sorts, perhaps. And there's a couple of things that are going on in the sky that bring that up for us. One, of course, is the moon in Capricorn. And the second thing is, first of all, let me ask a question. Are you guys in or out of alignment with your desires? And here's another good question. What are you saying yes or no to in your life? Right? The reason I'm asking you that is because here is a source of the tension that we're feeling in this idea between what we want and desire versus what we think we should do about it. And it is all coming up for us because Mars, the planet of action, is in a very challenging aspect to the sun right now. It's called a quincunx. Quincunx. Say that 10 times fast, right? And that is a particular type of aspect that is highly challenging. It creates a need for us to have to adjust our actions, to adjust our thinking, to let go of something in order to move forward. If you have a desire to be or do something in particular, and there's something standing in your way that you are attached to, could be an old feeling, it could be a relationship, it could be a person, it may a belief, it could be time for you to release that in order for you to solve this tension between what you want and what you think you can have, or what you think you need to do to get there. We're going to talk somewhat about this today when we look at the gift in the gate 48 or the gene key 48, which is the solution to inadequacy is resourcefulness. Then another question is this out of sorts feeling as we struggle for clarity about what direction to go, what it is we want to do, who we want to be out in the world. And if you're feeling that is also a part of this alignment with Mars and the sun today. Now, the sun will move away from this over the next few days. It's actually sort of at the end of this, and this may be something, some of the driving energy be about last evening. I think I started to feel a sort of vague weirdness in the energy yesterday about mid-afternoon. There was a vague sense of anger, frustration, but I couldn't pinpoint it. Like I couldn't put my finger on what it was that I was feeling or why. There wasn't anything that happened. No one said anything or did anything. It was just a feeling I was picking up. And in talking to a couple of you yesterday, I also heard that same feeling being, or emerging from the field, that people were feeling this struggle for clarity, but also feeling a little bit out of sorts, not sure what direction to go. And it is really springing from the last bits of energy that the sun is bringing to the sign of Leo. It's today at 29 degrees of Leo, and late 28 degrees, early 29 degrees as we move throughout the day. And that brings us to the closing phase of Leo energy. We've had eclipses happening across here. We had Mercury retrograde occurring in this sign. At the same time, the sun was in this sign. So we've had a lot of focus over the last couple of weeks and months or at least this whole summer pretty much, focus on our desires and connecting to that thing that we really want and opening up ourselves to being able to connect with that. And now we have had this little planet Venus, who is sitting at the spleen in your human design. She is triggering all of the fear energies in the spleen. And that is why we've been focusing on the spleen and the gates of the spleen, because as Venus moves through each one of them, she brings that up for us to look at. She brings that up for us to bring harmony and balance to in some way love it more and more within ourselves. And that would be the whole reason for us to have this discussion even, right? It's not about, any major issues. It's about these vague things that come up that get in our way. And if we make decisions from those fears, from these inadequacies and judgments and criticisms that come up, then we find ourselves mismatched, sort of like this, with our desires instead of in alignment with our desires. Right? So let's take a quick review of inadequacy. There were a couple of things yesterday that I didn't get to that I want to make sure we talk about before I run into resourcefulness. Let's see, Debbie, yes, yesterday was off. Nothing technical was working in the morning, midday. Yes, I've had my fun with this. Gail, I'm very off today and forgot my clients this morning. Oh, dear. I totally get that offness. It is still present today. Debbie, again, I just signed up as one of the 34 people to study personally under Colette Baron-Reid. Debbie is the one, by the way, everyone. Debbie Tibbetts gifted me the deck of the Wisdom of the Oracle cards by Colette Baron-Reid. That is the deck that I absolutely love to use in my Oracle card pulls in the morning. And Debbie has been studying with her. She went to Oracle Palooza and now is going to study personally with her. I love that, Debbie. Can't wait to see how that experience plays out for you. Mimi says, yes, in alignment, at the very least, constantly working on. Good morning, Michelle Brooks. And it's time it's the rain here. By the way, this morning I posted as good pictures as I could get of the phenomenon of the red sun and the red moon because of the smoke and haze that's in the sky here. There are fires to my east, there are fires to the north, and I don't know which way I just pointed, but it all adds up to smoke filtering into Western Washington, those mountains holding it like right here between us and the ocean. And it has been crazy, looking at the sky. I can tell right now, you can sort of see it's dark in my room, even though the sun is out. The light on the floor, the reflection of the sun is sort of orange red. It's spooky. So I posted those pictures on Facebook on the Living Astrology page. So you could see, cameras never really give it justice, but you can get an idea of the setting sun, and it's bright red. And the moon then, as I went out last night before bed, bright red, scary, eerie, weird. Suzanne says, it's so smoky here too. I think it's probably about the whole West Coast, even Oregon and Northern California getting that. Natasha, good morning. Yes, I'm grateful how the universe works through the back door. We sometimes don't know why life happens until later. Absolutely. That's a beautiful way to put that. Let's see. Good morning, Laura. It's good to see you out there this morning. Suzanne, Shauna Stewart, good morning to you as well. The smoke is the worst. I'm not sure where you are, Shauna, but yep, I totally get you. My husband last night, he rode his bike to work, his bicycle to work yesterday. And when he came home last night, he had a mask on, and you could see this layer of dust and ash on his mask. And I'm like, gosh, are you sure you want to ride your bike? I mean, come on, you're breathing this in. He goes, yeah, I'll just ride with my mask on. Weird. Wendy, good morning from Brownsville, Texas, way down at the tip of Texas. And Suzanne says, our mountains here hold it in too. Yeah, I think you're in Northern California, aren't you, Suzanne? So you've got the coastal mountains, or maybe the north, the southern end of the Cascade Mountains there. So it's been kind of crazy around here. It feels, when your outer world looks odd, it kind of gives you a feeling of oddness inside as well. That there's that connection that we make to that eerie feeling. So interesting, huh? Good morning, Shauna's from Seattle. Good morning to Seattle. And Michelle says N95 masks for wildfires. I'm not sure. I think what my husband's wearing is actually a medical mask because he is an emergency CERT worker. What is that called? A certified emergency response team worker. So I think the masks they give them are maybe for smoke. I don't know. I'll have to ask him. But hopefully the ocean air returns and washes this out of the sky here in the next couple of days. And Wendy, prayers for all in harm's way. Absolutely. And may the gods return the rain to both northern British Columbia and any places still in wildfire season, California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, all places in the West that wildfires become very prevalent in this time of the year. All right, so getting back to our review of inadequacy, remember that the shadow of this particular gene key comes about during the EQ phase of our development. EQ meaning the emotional phase, age 7 to 14 years old, where we either learn to take full responsibility for our emotions, or we don't mature emotionally into emotionally well-adjusted adults or human beings. And this is largely then coming about from our parents and how they were emotionally well-adjusted or not. And interestingly enough, the emotional body is also sort of akin to the astral body. And so in that there is the aura of one another. And so the aura is informing us, even if the parent is doing their best. And my guess is most parents out there did their best trying to raise you, and with the tools and the knowledge they had, the experiences they had, they did their best. But what's in their aura or their astral body is also actively engaged by you as the receiving being. And it's the same way with all of us all the time. It's why we intuit things about people, because our astral bodies overlap one another. Our emotional bodies interact. It's why human design works so interestingly, because our energies go out around us. You may think that this, skin is your boundary of you, but you yourself is much bigger than that. And you have this aura that goes out from around you. Some people have larger auras, some people have smaller auras. It doesn't matter. You still have an energy field that everyone around you can intuit and pick up how you're feeling and how you're doing. And you as a young being from age 7 to 14 were not immune to that. So even though your parents may have been parenting you one way, you were also very aware, if you will, of what was going on just beneath the surface for them as well. So then we also talked about yesterday, as in response to our inability to be emotionally well-adjusted human beings, we created false systems, realities, i.e. stories, timelines, essentially structures and forms to maintain control over our fear, right? To give ourselves a sense of false security. Well, we think it's a sense of security, but it turns out that it's a false sense of security. So I want you to think of this gene key, the gene key 48 or the gate 48. And remember that is at the top part of the spleen. I'm going to get a picture here really quickly for everybody, since there's some people that are new out there or who maybe weren't with us yesterday as we talked about this. The spleen is the center right here at the lower left side of your chart, of your human design. The spleen is the oldest center in the body, and it arose out of our need to survive. So there was the energy for survival, time, intuition, instinct arose from this center. The health of our immune system also arising out of this center. The gate 48 sits right here, and it has a direct line to the manifesting center, the throat. And right now we don't have anything connecting us at gate 16 unless you have it in your natal chart, which is possible. But gate 48 then is hanging. It is hanging here, and it is up in our faces right now, this energy of inadequacy. But I want you to think of the 48 as a well, as a deep portal to infinity, as an access point to the void. And Michelle, this is the part that, Michelle Gay, this is the part that I really was hoping you would be tuned into this morning, because she and I had a brief conversation last evening about this energy of the void, this emptiness that we feel when we get to this void. It's like a bottomless black hole, such as what gave rise to the primal fear of the divine feminine during the Middle Ages, right? That gave rise to the witch hunts. The paranoia is born out of the dark, deep well, out of the void, out of that empty space, right? It is born out of the shadow of inadequacy. And then we create, or we project it outward from us as, weird things in our culture, the men in black, right? Aliens, our governments, gods, anything who might be controlling of us or who can help us maintain structure and form are the creations that we had born out of that well, out of the fear of that deep. So with these kinds of systems and structures, our hope, our wish, our conditioning was that these fears would move to the background, right? That they wouldn't be at the surface. So we package it all up and we send it down to the deep. And therefore we become programmed to look to the material realm to quell our fears instead of looking within us, right? The deep resides within us. So we look to the material realm, the physical world, to keep our fears at bay. Interesting, right? Now that brings us to the word resourcefulness. Resourcefulness, which is the gift in this particular gene key, the gift of resourcefulness. So it is from, as I was saying, our emotional or our astral body that we learn from our parents, right? We can either heal patterns that have been here when we start to greet that emotional, that EQ within us. And by the way, every one of you, I put the link in the Living Astrology Facebook page for you to get to the Gene Keys hologenetic profile so that you could get your own profile and see what your SQ, EQ, and IQ were. SQ meaning the physical phase of your birth to age 7, then the emotional phase from 7 to 14, and from 14 to 21, the IQ, which is your mental development. In the bigger scheme of things, 48, this gene key that we're working on is the ruler, if you will, of the IQ, of the EQ phase, the emotional phase. But you have a personal EQ, right? You have a personal EQ. So when you hear me talking about the EQ, and this is the gene key that's in the background for all of us, but you also have a personal one, born out of a personal experience during age 7 to 14 that brought your emotional body into play. And if that was expressed through the shadow of that gene key, then what we see are repeats almost periodically in sync with the different phases of your own life. Almost like in every 7 years, there's some kind of repeat of that particular shadow. And until you learn to really heal this to become more resourceful, you will keep repeating this pattern. Now, there's also patterns that repeat for the physical and also for the mental, but right now we're dealing with the emotional, the EQ. So the essence of the gift of resourcefulness is trust. Trust. Trusting life, right? That trusting that the well or the void will divulge its secrets to you when you go within and you ask, right? When you go within. There's fear is always in the void. There's always fear. It's always there. We can't let go of fear. We can't, it's just part of our DNA, right? Until we evolve away from the spleen energy in our body, fear will still be a part of our experience. But just because of that there is fear doesn't mean we have to enter into the field of fear, right? We can lessen the anxiety and the fear around getting into the fear by going within, by looking within, going into the well. The well is within you. You stop being afraid of fear when you dare to look into those dark places within you. When you dare to look into that void, when you dare to look into that emptiness, when you dare to lower the bucket, if you will, into that well and then bring it back up and see what's there, right? Trusting that you have the answers deep within you, and it only requires your openness to being in that fear, to being in that moment, to look deeper and see what it is bringing you to. Because out of that well come all manner of solutions to all the challenges that you're facing, that we're all facing, that we face as individuals, that we face as a collective, that we face as a universe. Good morning, Suzanne. The link is on the Living Astrology Facebook page. You may have to scroll up because I think I posted that link. I may have posted that link last Friday. So scroll down the page a bit. And if you'd like, I will post it again a little bit later today for everybody. It's just the gene keys. You can also do a search on Google, search for hologenetic profile. Let me hide that for a second and I'll write this. That's your hologenetic profile. So maybe if you Google that, it'll take you to the Gene Keys page. You enter in your birth information. It spits back a profile. And here's what it looks like. Here's my own Gene Keys profile or hologenetic profile. So it has all these little bubbles on it. And you'll see those three. Let me turn this way here. So these three right here are the IQ, EQ, and the SQ, right? So right there, central to your design, central to your profile. So for example, my EQ is sitting at the gate 29, which is the half-heartedness. It's the gate of commitment. It's the gate that the sun is at right now. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. So this is like a double. It's funny too, because I've been thinking about that word commitment and consistency and constancy and thinking about that. So that's interesting that it shows up there. So you may find in that shadow of that particular gene key that sits at your EQ, some of the answers to what's been going on in your life right now, because something would have happened in age 7 to 14 that sort of set the tone for your emotional development or not. Right? Your emotional development or not developed, right? But when we dare to go within, when we dare to do our work, when we are willing to look at that fear, whatever that fear is, when we're willing to look at that fear and we begin to go within to see, what does this mean for us? What does this mean for me? Where did this come from? What is the solution that I have that's deep within me to facing this fear, to overcoming or to working with this fear? You will actually be amazed at what emerges from the deep. And this is why this gift is resourcefulness, right? Because within you is everything you need to work through every issue, every challenge, everything that in your world that you see around you that might be triggering a fear, right? Fear. And as you learn to trust, and as you trust more that an answer will emerge from your ability to look in the deep, the more fear, anxiety, stress, depression begins to fade in your life, right? That's huge, right? Because that is like a pervasive veil that lives here on this planet, this veil of fear and anxiety and stress and depression and sadness and melancholy. And those are normal experiences. So I don't want to take that away necessarily. But when that veil becomes so thick because we've dumped it deep, deep, deep down and don't want to take a look at it, we never allow it to come up and emerge and become a source of our healing, right? So the gift of resourcefulness becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, almost this way, right? Trust leads to more trust, reinforcing your inner security and your sense of deeper trust in the universe, deeper faith in the universe. No matter what your fears are, you'll know that you can always go within. That's the gift of resourcefulness. It reveals inadequacy to be false or to be an illusion, to be just this veil of, junk that you've collected, that you came through in birthing into this planet, and then also were affected by, as you had parents in your life that were also affected by this, right? So it forces us into a surrender. Surrender. If we arrive at the moment of fear, unreactive, vulnerable, and unknowing, open, honestly acknowledging that we don't know the answers. We don't know the answers up here, but trusting that we know the answers in here, then we have more and more trust. So it is a sort of a twofold trust and surrender, right? Trust and surrender allow us to access the resourcefulness within us. And the more we trust that we don't know those answers, the more we are deconditioning ourselves, right? When we talk about human design, going back to my little template here, by the way, this is not a person's, this was a day. And you note those open centers, right? The open centers, the open channels, the open gates. Those are places where you have conditioning. So if you want to know where your conditioning is, pull your human design chart out, take a look at it, dust it off, and go, oh, those are the places, right? If you have, let's see if I can hide this person's name. And you can see this person has conditioning in the will center, in the emotional center, in the sacral center, and in the root center. All four of the motors for this person are conditioned. So this person may be running through their life, acting in completely ways that are not true for them, right? Because the motors, their energy centers are wide open. So they're pulling that in from around them, amplifying it and rebroadcasting it. This person is a projector and may feel all her life as if she is a generator or a manifesting generator. She may feel like she has will and perseverance and endurance. And the fear may be that she has to use this energy every day to get what she wants done, instead of sitting back and allowing those opportunities to come to her, which is the real truth for the projector, right? Being open to receiving, being Buddha, sitting here in reception, waiting for people, the correct timing, the correct invitation to get out in the world. I know that's kind of an aside, but anyway. So the more we trust our not knowing, the more we are willing to go deep in within us and face the fear, to face the void, to face the emptiness. and let go of the idea that the mind is going to be able to solve the problem, or that the physical world is going to be able to solve, that we'll find the solution in the physical world, the more we become deconditioned. When we become deconditioned, when we release ourselves from conditioning, our true, authentic gifts and talents emerge through our being resourceful, right? Resourceful, unleashing in us a tide of creative energy that just washes through our lives, that takes us to our truth again, right? And emerging from that is the hidden timing and rhythm in our lives that brings things to us when it's right and perfect. Divine right timing. Divine timing. I love the comments that are going on here. This is great. Debbie, the Buddha in me meets the Buddha in you. Awesome. Cool. Suzanne, so hard, but super cleansing. Yeah. This isn't so easy, but it is a place to start. It's a place to start, right? If you want to release yourself from the shadow of inadequacy, you got to go deep within and look at that inadequacy. What is the fear it's hiding from you? Is it a fear of not being good enough? Is it a fear of lack or scarcity? Is it a fear? Who knows, right? Only you know. And you know by looking into the well, looking into the deep, looking into the void, and being willing to come back with that bucket filled with insight, right? With truth. Let's see what else out here. Susan, this is very interesting. Thank you. You're most welcome. Suzanne, Debbie, babies in diapers. Mostly, I think what you were, I think you were thinking about, Debbie, that all of us are just these babies, right? That we're emotionally not really prepared to be fully responsible for ourselves in the world while we're still creating this fear. Timing. I need to get moving here shortly. Let me say this. There's also a component, there are three other components to this gift that I haven't been able to really share because I knew I was going to run out of time. One of them is this concept of prosperity, and prosperity versus wealth. And I'm only just scratching the surface of this one in my own contemplation of this gene key. And humans, and you're human, are designed to be prosperous, to have everything you need and then some. The difference between prosperity and wealth is that wealth is our feeling that we need more and more and more, way more than we could ever use or way more than we could ever need. But there's also a sense that those two things, prosperity and wealth, are different for everybody. I think when I work with prosperity and wealth issues in my own chart or in anybody else's chart, I often think about those people that you see, like tribal people or people in, some of the poorer places on earth. We think of them as poor maybe in relation to the way that we have our lifestyles set up. But when you look at them, often they've got the most beautiful, happy, smiling faces. The children are running around, even if they're not wearing shoes. I'm not talking about the people who with the distended stomachs that aren't eating enough, who are truly poor. But for the most part, we see that happiness and prosperity are not necessarily based in wealth. So when we think from a fear perhaps of lack or not having enough, that wealth is going to give us the answers we need or is going to fill the void, we are again looking to the material world when indeed the wealth and prosperity is within us. Again, just scratching the surface of that one. Not having really had the time yet to think about that one and to really contemplate that. But I want you to be able to go into the well and look at that for yourself. Go into that deep. Is wealth for you, is the concept of wealth for you about keeping a fear of scarcity at bay? And if it is, then wealth is never going to bring you the happiness that you seek. It can't, because it's based in fear. Huge. This huge aha that I'm having here this morning about this, where prosperity and being prosperous is a function of, when I look around my own life right now, I have everything I need. My refrigerator has food in it. I have relationships. I have family. I have a home. I have a roof over my head. I have air I can breathe. I have land I can walk on. I have really just about everything that I need. But there is still something within me that thinks I need more. And so it's up to me as an individual then to look within that well of inadequacy, to look within that void, that deep, to find out what it is that I'm trying to, what fear am I holding at bay? And the place to look for that fear, literally right now, is going to be at the age 7 to 14. What happened between ages 7 and 14 as it relates to your emotional development? And that's why this is a work of contemplation. I don't know that answer. I don't know it up here. I can't know it from up here. But I can know it when I go in, when I dare to face that fear of not having enough, perhaps, of abandon. Who knows? I'm not even sure what that is. I don't need to know. I can go to the well. I can go to the deep, and I can bring back that bucket. I can trust that the answers will be there. The solutions to the challenges will be there, because I am elevating myself out of inadequacy and into resourcefulness. And that's my wish for all of you as well. Let's take a look here at some of the other comments coming in. Tina, money has meant safety to me. It is a tough, self-limiting belief to challenge, but so juicy when you do it. I invite you all to challenge these things that you have within you, right? These fears, these beliefs that you have, the structures that you have put in your life, the anxieties and stresses that you have are often the tell for you as to where it is that you have a fear. Debbie, I never got the dream date game for Christmas. And it's funny, Debbie, because that seems so simple, right? But the message you get is that I don't get what I want, right? I don't get what I want. I know when I was 10 years old, on my birthday, I wanted a 10-speed bike. All my friends had 10-speed bikes, and I had this stupid banana seat, kid bike. But I didn't want that anymore. I wanted this 10-speed bike. But the message I got from my parents was, we can't afford to get that for you. Or at least that's what I was told, even though that wasn't what I saw around me. I saw lots of things that we had that other people didn't have. I saw lots of prosperity around me, but I was always told when I wanted something that I couldn't have it because it wasn't affordable. And so the message, telescoped into me is that your desires are too expensive, right? So my desires are too expensive. So now every time in my life, and this is just me getting this right now, every time in my life when I've wanted something, when I really wanted something, something always seems to keep me from getting it. And even if I do get it, there's so much fear in the having it that it creates an outer world picture of not having enough. For instance, when I was so excited to go to Cozumel in January, we bought the tickets last August, and out of that excitement and the ability at the time to purchase that came this mashing, crushing fear that by the time January came, I wouldn't have the money to enjoy the trip. And what did I manifest? Oh my gosh, I struggled mightily from about September to January in getting the resources to be able to enjoy the trip. And now that I look at this, I can see, something I really wanted and desired was told to me I couldn't have it because it wasn't affordable. And then I get something that I really desired, and now I'm creating from fear, which I will have to look deeper and see what that fear is all about. And these are the things that we do consistently in our lives, right? But unless you're willing to look at it, it's never going to get solved. It's not going to come from the mind either. because you can think your way into and out of that well very quickly, but never get the answer, right? So Debbie, thank you for sharing that. That's huge. Debbie, and you got hurt. Yeah, I got hurt. She thought she wasn't being heard. She thought she wasn't being heard because she didn't get that, right? So in your own lives, what did you equate with not getting what you desire, right? That you weren't good enough, that there wasn't enough money, that no one listened to you, that, went in one ear and out the other, that you were invisible. Lots of different experiences. Shauna, loving this. It's, to me, Shauna, this is some of the most juicy work that we can do as human beings on the planet, as consciousness seeps in and opens us up to becoming so much more than what we thought we could be. Gail, wow, I understand your experience with these things too. Vicky, I'm not sure who Vicky is, but Vicky, hello, if you're out there listening. And good to see all of you out there. And let's see, Laura, message, I don't deserve that. Yeah, that makes sense too, even in my experience, as my second house in my astrology chart filled with planets about worthiness, right? Worthiness. Shauna, but how do you challenge the EQ with emotional confusion, though? You can't solve the problem from the level it was created, which is the mind. You can't. You got to go deeper. You got to go into your heart. You have to stay open. You have to look that fear right in the face and say, what is the message? What is the solution? I'm open to receiving that solution. And then you freaking let it go. You don't let it keep going round and round in your head. You go out and you live your life. You have joy and pleasure and fun. And when you least expect it, I swear to you, the solution comes. For me this morning, I'm not even thinking about it. And there's a solution. It's in my field now. I got it. Right? Gail, to hear this, patterns, self-awareness, and self-limiting. This is so healing to hear. Yeah. Becoming ascended, Suzanne says. Gail, I'm sorry, Janet. You know what? Thank you for that. Thank you. But guess what? This is, to me, this is why I'm here, right? To heal through all of these things, to come into my resourcefulness. You are too. Or you wouldn't be sitting here listening to what I'm saying. It wouldn't have called you in to this. You wouldn't be called to join me in the morning to learn these lessons if this wasn't up for you as well. Every one of you, let me applaud you for daring to look here, to go here. Shauna says, Gemini moon, so hard not to let it spin around in my mind and overthink. Yeah, I'm a Gemini. I have a Gemini sun. I get it, because there is that mind thing that goes around. The clue, and I have an open head and an open ajna. Lots of you do. About 50% of you at least have that open head and open ajna. And so things come into your mind, and they just bounce around. They bounce around. The trick is to not identify with what the thinking is, to just understand they're just thoughts, to sit back at the part of you that's objective, that the part of you that's the observer, and observe the thoughts without attaching to them. Right? I can see the thoughts running through my head that I didn't get what I wanted when I was 10 for my birthday. The message was, you're not worthy to receive that perhaps on your birthday, that the money isn't there and I'm not going to spend the money on something you really want. You're not important enough in my life. Whatever it is, if I'm sitting back and observing, I can see that without attaching to it. I can just allow those thoughts to run, and they will eventually give up and go away, right? If I'm not attaching to it, I'm going to go about my life today. I'm going to go get my stupid eyes taken care of. They're not stupid. I'm going to go get my eyes taken care of today. I'm going to get prepared for the radio show I'm doing late this afternoon. And I'm just going to do the things that I do on my given day. And I'm going to trust that deep within that well, because I've dipped that bucket in, that at some point the solution to that is going to show up in my field. It's going to show up. I trust that. And that's what we need to be doing, is trusting that even though my mind is running rampant, I don't have to attach to that. I can just sit back and observe it. I can go on living my life in full trust to the process of the universe bringing me back what I need, right? It's like going into the well, dipping that bucket and coming back up with jewels, with water, something precious, and just trusting that it will be there at the right time, in the right place, with the right answers. And then, you know what your job is in the meantime is to live your life in joy, to just do what comes up in front of you. Not keep worrying about these things, just doing what is, and it's almost like just saying to God, Goddess, Source, Creator, I'm here, put in front of me what is mine for today, and then going with that. And then just doing your life. And every time a fear comes up, or every time something comes up that's a stressor, that's creating anxiety for you, dare to look at it, right? Be willing to go into, without your mind looking for a solution to it or trying to push it away. Don't look to the outer world for the solution. Come back to the inner world. Come back to the well, and the solution will be there. Suzanne says she has a Gemini rising. So we have a lot of Gemini-minded sort of people here. Your air signs, Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, are all three air signs. And the air tends to be mental. It tends to go through the mental thinking processes. And so you all have those three signs somewhere in your chart. If you have one of those signs perhaps on the third house, which rules the mind, you may have very busy minds. Right? If you have, like this particular person's chart that I was looking at, if you have a defined head and a defined ajna, meaning they're colored yellow and green, then you may actually have to lie down in order to quiet your mind, in order to meditate, in order to go within. Why? Because you have definition here. You have defined ways of being inspired and defined certainty. And it may be very difficult for inspiration to come through in new ways for you if you're meditating in a sitting position. So lie down. Allow that energy to come through you at the soul center, right? Instead of dropping in through the ajna or through the crown and into the ajna and through the throat and down into the soul, just lie down and let it come right into the soul. If you have an open head and an open ajna, I wouldn't do that because likely you're going to fall asleep. And if you don't know if you have an open head or an ajna, guess what? Go to my website, get your free human design chart. It's free. Here's the website, living-astrology.com. And you can get your free human design chart. You can get your free natal astrology chart. And I won't get to those until later today. So if you request one, be patient. I will get to it, just maybe not this second. Also, this evening, at 5 o'clock Pacific time, that would be 8 o'clock for you all on the East Coast, I will be on Angel Heart Radio with Annette McCoy for our monthly astrology radio show. And I think today for the radio show, I'm going to dive into Venus with the listeners. I'm going to dive into as much as I can, as much as I think they might be able to tolerate, in what the Venus retrograde station will mean and what we can do to lead up to that, which is, daily you and I are dealing with this. But today I'm going to have to get a broader view. And if you are so inclined, Angel Heart Radio is on Blog Talk, and you can, oops, I don't want to do that yet. Nope. You can go to Angel Heart Radio. I'll probably post a link to that. So you can listen by phone. You can listen on your computer because it's on Blog Talk Radio today at 5 p.m. All about Venus and getting ready for the retrograde and what it means for us moving into the fall and darn near into the winter. It's not until December 17th that Venus releases us from this retrograde. So we have a long time yet to deal with all of this energy. You don't have to be perfect today, but everything is perfect today, right? So next we go into wisdom, the Siddhi, the highest expression of through the gate 48 wisdom. I probably will not be here with you tomorrow morning as I will be at the hospital again, just to let you know. with my grandson and my daughter waiting for the results of the surgery. So I will be back with you again on Thursday morning, and we'll take up, I actually think on Thursday, we're even into the new Human Design Week. Let's see, Thursday is the new week, and we will also be dealing with a new gate for Venus, gate 57, which is the gate of intuition and inner knowing. And we'll take a look at what the fear in that particular gate brings us to. So thank you all for being attentive this morning and for being willing to do this work for yourself and for your own family, for changing your own EQ, your emotional energy, and becoming more responsible for your own well-being. All right, everyone. Love you so much. Mwah! Take care. Have a great day. See you Thursday. Bye for now.